Seckc! Are you fucking ready? Welcome to Seckc March. Like I actually know what month it is at any given moment. Thankfully, I have a slide. Thanks, Maddie. Appreciate you. We are the biggest and besterest monthly Infosec event in the world. A fun story, the Burbsec crew flew in last month. We loved having our Chicago brethren in town with us. They looked at us incredulously and said, "You guys do this every month?" We said, yeah, we fucking do. So thank you for coming out. It's only possible because of all of you. We really appreciate you coming out after work, after hours, and hanging with us. In the words of the epic Dr. Wesley McGrew, Seckc is pragmatically fun and aesthetically cool thing to engage in, which he has a PhD, so you should probably listen to him in all possible matters. We are rated R, if you cannot already tell, since I've already dropped several of them, but we say fuck a lot. Kind of use it as a comma in sentences. So hopefully that's okay with you guys, but fair warning up front, we like to curse. If you have an issue, one of our code of conduct members should be wearing either a high-vis or a yellow code of conduct badge. Please let one of us know. We believe in not being dicks to each other at Seckc. So challenge ideas, not people. We have a random band joke for Julie about harpsichords being banned. So no harpsichords, motherfuckers. Last warning. Above all, we want to destroy no data, maintain no persistence, and do no harm. But we want to live, laugh, and love shenanigously, a word that I just made up. State and federal law enforcement officers are encouraged to and do attend. We do not take attendance, so we cannot provide that information to law enforcement, so y'all rule breakers are safe. But also, keep in mind, the feds might be among us. So be careful what you say and what you do. We do not provide your data to anyone. Which means we should be doubly thankful for our sponsors this month, 10X AI and LMG Security. We really appreciate y'all, especially since normally speaking at events, they get attendee lists and we don't do that, and they still want to hang out with us and give us money to pay our rent. So thank your vendors. Go talk to them. They're in the back. They're giving away cool shit. We love them. They have slap bracelets with pen testing cheat sheet codes. I mean, they're awesome. Go say hi to LMG. 10X is right next to them. They have some fun stuff as well. Again, challenge ideas and not people. Assume all humans at Seckc are technical and capable of breathing fire and might enjoy it a little too much, so be careful. The wall behind you is called the shut the fuck up wall. So while the talks are on stage, we want to be respectful of people who came here to learn. Please shut the fuck up. If you would like to have a conversation, feel free to go behind that wall, enjoy a drink, say hi to our sponsors, eat some food, do whatever you want. On this side of the wall, we want to listen to the talks, and we are here to learn. We love our brethren from Seckc DSM. They are dope, too. They are our Des Moines counterparts. They often come to visit us, and they support us in many different ways. So if you happen to be up in the Des Moines area, catch you a Seckc DSM meeting. They are just as fun, and they do it in a really cool distillery as well. We want local speakers. So we are currently, I am pleased to say, booked until July for speakers. We're going to talk about June and how you can get involved. So that is a month where if you have an idea for a talk, we're going to talk here in a second about what we're looking for from a lightning talk perspective for June. But we always need more speakers. So please go to this page. You can get to it from the Seckc website. Submit your form. Any ideas that you have. We have people in this community that will happily mentor you if you're unsure how to execute a particular kind of talk. So let us know. We'll reach out to folks internally and help you as much as we can. But we want new talks, local folks, anytime we can possibly get that. Meet someone new. Say hi to the people next to you. Say hi to the people behind the shut the fuck up wall. Ask questions, especially if someone's sitting by themselves or they look new. Say hi, introduce yourself, be friendly. We are a community. Again, challenge ideas, not people. Go to our socials, seckc.org/connect. Of course, here's our Discord, our Twitter. We're also on LinkedIn and Facebook. Hashtag Seckc, all the things, anytime you possibly can. That'll keep you up to date with what we're doing. We are run by volunteers. We are a nonprofit, and everyone that makes this event happen volunteers their time to do so. As a result, we need help. We can't do it. There's actually fewer of us doing this than you might think. Here's an eager volunteer right here in the front. We got to start them young. Go to seckc.org/volunteer, fill out the form. It asks some questions about what you would be interested in doing, what sounds fun to you, and we will assign you to a director, and we'll get you involved with Seckc. Be the change you want. If you have an opinion about something that we're doing, good or bad, please express it to us. Come up to anyone that's wearing a code of conduct in high vis, anyone that's running the events, and give us your thoughts. But you can also do that online if you're not comfortable doing that in person or it's more convenient. We definitely want to know what you guys think and how we can make this better for you. Again, we are volunteers, so we want to do this just for shits and giggles, more for collective shits and giggles. The swag table is over in the corner. Say hi to Johnny in the corner with the swag.
Hi, Johnny!
So go over there. Please buy things. We are broke. That's not quite true. It's been over dramatization, but still buy shit. Seckc jerseys are coming back. We have models. We have our illustrious model Bill here on stage to show you the prior version of the Seckc jersey. Oh yeah, to the left. Bill still sucks, but we appreciate him modeling the jersey. So if you are interested in this run of Seckc jerseys, please let us know. There's a couple ways to do that. You can go to the order form on the event page. All we really need to know is what size you would like and if you would be willing to buy a jersey. We don't want to come out of pocket for that, so that'll allow us to get an estimate of how many we need to order. And then we'll have formal mock-ups so you can see what it's going to look like, hopefully in April, if not by May. We're going to try to get them in and delivered to y'all by May. So fill out the form, let us know what size you would like so we can make sure we get what's relevant to everybody. Tonight's agenda is jam-packed, and I'm super excited. So to start off, we have Dusty, who's local, doing a talk that I'm super psyched to hear about how to use AI and IDE to make your life a little more less monotonous, particularly when it comes to things like reporting and creating documents. Social engineering, we have not had a social engineering talk in a hot minute. So we have Stephanie and Bangert. Bangert is local. Stephanie flew in. We were so excited. They have amazing credentials and social engineering, DEF CON, black badges, and they're going to be amazing. I can't wait to hear that talk. We're also going to have upcoming talks that I'm very excited about. Next month, our very own LP, and Rando's going to fly in. May, our very own Codex and August Johnson are talking around AI hacks. And in June, we are going to need all of y'all to submit ideas for 30-minute talks. We're going to do 8 separate stages of 30-minute lightning talks twice. So we haven't formalized how this is all going to work, but hypothetically, we're going to have a talk on each side of the stage, talks in each corner, talks behind the shut the fuck up wall, maybe even one outside. But lightning talks, 30 minutes, and then you'll rotate to whatever talk looks most interesting to you next, and you'll give your talk a second time. So we need you to submit talks for this. We don't have this already ironed out, but we are really wanting to do 8 mics one night, which I think is just Bill wanting to say the next best thing to 8 speakers, 1 cup. So how it'll work, just outline what I just said, essentially. Sign up to present by May 1st, and we'll notify presenters by mid-May that you've been selected for your talk. Variety is welcome. We have some suggestions here. What can your flipper really do? Lighting all the things. You know, if you walk into my house, it looks like I have no friends because of the amount of LED strips that are just all over my house, which is not entirely untrue. ESP32 stuff, so wearables, and tool talks. Just some ideas to get your brain going on what might fit in a 30-minute style talk that you're ready to deliver twice in a lightning format in June. So apply for those talks by May 1st, please, please, please. Any creative ideas are welcome. Tip your bartenders in the back. They are super duper cool, and they help support our venue so they can support us. We really like those folks. They seem super cool. Friends of Seckc, other upcoming events. We had a Seckc on ice, and only one not quite casualty. Someone messed up their face. They didn't die. Don't worry. They are still with us. But, you know, nerds on ice. It's what's going to happen. Other upcoming events worth knowing about. CypherCon, our friends at SecDSM on the 2nd of April. KernelCon, which is also north of here. Obviously, upcoming Seckc in April with the talks that I mentioned with LP and Rando. B-Sides KC. We love our brethren at B-Sides KC, no matter how much Bill sucks. And we actually have a discount code that is specific to Seckc that I'll tell you about here in just a moment. After that, worth mentioning B-Sides DSM and Deadwood Worldwide Hack and Fest Deadwood is in October. So what is our SeckC discount code if you plan to go to B-Sides? Hot Dog 10, motherfuckers. That'll get you $10 off your B-Sides. And now, if we have Jiggle Billy in the wings to talk to us about Choo Choo, motherfuckers, it's time for HoboCon 2026. Bring it on, Jiggle Billy.
All right, just real quick, just really wanted to hammer home for June with the 8 speakers, 1 mic.
Yes. You mean 8 speakers?
8 speakers, 8 mics? I don't know. We really wanted our local community to come together. It's a great opportunity to become an official SeckC speaker. You can put that on your resume, you can put it on your LinkedIn. It goes far. SeckC has a pretty good reputation nationally. So, great opportunity there. Who here knows about HoboCon? I just want to know, okay. Pretty well saturated, okay. So just high level, HoboCon, Hacker Conference on a Train. It's going to be July 17th and 18th. We're going to leave Union Station at 8:40 a.m. We'll get into Chicago about 9 p.m. I'd like to charter a bus to a block of hotel rooms, so we're going to get a block of rooms that, before tickets go on sale. We'll have that locked down. And then we'll take the train back to Kansas City the next day. So the big news is July 17th and 18th. If you haven't signed up on the interest form, get on the interest form because that's who we're notifying first. And we'll probably just give that a couple days before we announce it on all socials. And it will sell out. There's only like 60 seats. So get on the list.
Very excited about HoboCon as an offshoot, thank you, Jiggle Billy, of SeckC. All of the seats in the train car face the center, and that's where the talks are going to be. So it's going to be an actual like SeckC type conference on a train. We also need sponsors for that. So all y'all work somewhere. We need everybody's money. Please sponsor. If you can, the tickets will be cheaper for everyone. That's obviously what we want. The car costs what it costs, so the more sponsors we get, the better. Here is tonight's agenda. So we have passed Make Excuses time. We are here. We have a cocktail. You have suffered through SeckC 101 with me. Now, if we have Mark handy, we're going to talk about the Corelight CTF. Caca from Side Stage.
Did you know, like she said previously, SeckC is a nonprofit, a 501c3. I'm sure there are tax incentives to sponsoring us. Go find Daryl. If you see him, I recommend tackling him with your motivation to sponsor a SeckC meeting. We have gold and silver sponsorship levels. If you want to do something other than that, we can probably figure it out. But tonight we're going to have a CTF event hosted by Corelight. I'll let him hop on the mic real quick, and I'll unfuck my slides.
Perfect. How long should I stall for, Maddie? Half a minute, 30 seconds. Start your timers. My name is Mark. I'm here with Corelight. You may not have heard of Corelight, but you've probably heard of Zeek. And if you haven't heard of Zeek, you may have heard of Bro. But at any rate, we're running a network forensics-focused, blue team-oriented capture the flag out behind the shut the fuck up wall. So if you want to participate, you can go to this site, right? Indigo anteater.corelightctf.com. I apologize for how hard that is to pronounce and to spell. My apologies. The registration code is SeckC, all lowercase. Yeah, he's got the right idea. Take a photo. But also, if you need this information, come find us out behind the wall. We can get it for you. And if you get stuck on anything, come out there and find us. It'll be open for 24 hours, and you can play, and there'll be some prizes for the people who do the best. So come. Sorry? It's now. We're going to unlock it soon. So, yeah, it starts now, and it will run for 24 hours. Thank you.
Thank you to Corelight for running a CTF for us. And I will also throw that link and registration code in the Outhouse channel on Discord. If you don't have Discord or you're not a member yet, come find someone in a high-vis vest. I think I'm the only one. That's okay. Come find me, and I'll get you added. Just wait for a couple minutes, and we'll have open source news. Thank you.
Hello? All right. So, let's get into some fucking news. A little bit happened in the last month. For those of you that maybe somehow missed it, there's been a couple incidents, a few geopolitical incidents, a few things going on. But anyway, let's start with vulnerabilities. There's a fun Cisco auth bypass in a separate RCE, so you should update. Cisco said no mitigations, just patch. Persona, we're going to get to this later, but know your customer and Persona. Persona is a company that just knows who you are. They know every single little tiny thing about you, even things you don't know. And then they don't do anything with it other than tell the company that paid them, you're over 18. It's bullshit. There's a Microsoft 365 bug, I refuse to believe this is a bug, where it was summarizing confidential emails. Microsoft just really wants it everywhere. Corona, I don't know how you say this one. It's a very, very fancy advanced iOS toolkit that appears to, in total, be about $11.5 to $12 million worth of iOS 23 exploits that was originally deployed towards attacking Ukrainians and then moved towards Chinese crypto exchanges. But it's incredibly advanced, very, very cool, and a bunch of artifacts were left over, so that's how we know what it's called. On to breaches. French bank got popped due to some stolen creds. Happens. Car gurus also got popped. Lost about 12 million users' information. Conduit gets fucking worse. I know you didn't think that was possible, but it is. Kipu, didn't know about this company, but they do something with social media people, like streamers. I don't know. Anyway, they vibe coded the fuck out of it and didn't know what a security was, so you could just reach out to an endpoint and get everything. So somebody did, and then just selling it. LexisNexis also got popped. The FBI is investigating suspicious activity on their network. So I don't really know what that means. Maybe it's a breach. This German train company also got breached, and their ticketing sales and all that was down for a while. Some hackers stole the personal data of nearly 1 million your user accounts. I can't use words. I need to go to sleep. About 1 million of those, so that's fun. PayPal was breached for about 6 months and didn't fucking know. On to some funny moments. Meta sharing videos from your smart glass? No, they would never. So apparently a bunch of employees have been saying, oh, I don't actually like watching people take a shit through their smart glasses. So do it that way you will. I would suggest not getting them, but you do you. Anthropic versus the U.S. government. U.S. government says you're a supply chain risk unless you let us use your tool to kill people without any human involvement. And Anthropic said, Lamau, no. And the U.S. said, well, in that case, we're going to designate you a supply chain risk, and then no one can use you. And then Anthropic was like, no. And then OpenAI was like, also no, because that's bad. We can't be doing that. And then Sam Altman remembered that actually they don't make any fucking money, and they need all the government contracts, so they said, Lamau actually will take all your money. So, yep, thanks OpenAI. Phobos admin pled guilty to wire fraud. I thought that was kind of funny. Wire fraud's what they got him with? Okay. Moltbook, remember that dog shit website? That social media site for AI? Yeah, I got acquired by Meta. I don't know why they want that, but they did. The Polish army banned Chinese cars on bases. Felt like that was a pretty obvious one, but I'm glad they put it in writing. Texas is suing TP-Link, saying they allowed the CCP to hack their routers. From looking at TP-Link's firmware, I can confirm they let them in just as much as everyone else does. It's all shit. None of these companies are putting in effort. TP-Link's not putting in more effort or less effort. They're all the fucking same. On to some fun skill issues. Archive.today was banned from Wikipedia because they got in a beef with this blog owner and added a little bit of code to all their websites that was sending out requests to that blog to DDoS it whenever anybody used Archive Today. Anyway, Wikipedia was like, fuck you. No, you can't be used as a source. There was an AWS outage. I don't know if you guys were really at all affected by this. It's pretty Middle Eastern focused, as Middle East Central 1 experienced an incident from a flying object called a missile that hit it very hard. And it doesn't fucking work anymore. So I hope you didn't have anything in AWS MC or Mac. So yeah, it happens. It happens. don't use a credit card to pay for Proton Mail if you care about security or like privacy, because this guy got unmasked via Proton Mail because the FBI sent a request to Proton, and Proton told them to kill themselves, and then they sent a request to the Swiss authorities to send it to Proton, and the Swiss authorities said, okay, sent it to Proton, and Proton was required to give over payment information, and the guy paid with a credit card, so it was free. But you can avoid that by using crypto. Promise. On to some takedowns. TSA is taken down due to a minor government shutdown. I don't know if any of you guys have been impacted by this, but very fun. Thanks to that. The EU busted Tycoon 2FA, which is a big SMS 2FA thing. They got shut down for now. Remember Kim Wolf? Remember how that was really funny? Anyway, it turns out the guy who's behind its username is Dort, and he's been making Minecraft cheats. And he has his real name places, so people just, well, specifically Krebs on Security, just figured out who it was and made it public. So have fun. Leakbase got shut down. That was one of the bigger forums, I believe, after breached whatever on like 4.0 or whatever the fuck it is now, got shut down. On to some what the fuck. Western Digital is out of storage. They just sold it all preemptively. So now you can't fucking buy hard drives anymore, in addition to RAM. Remember that Ring feature where they're like, oh yeah, we'll just look for dogs. Well, just for dogs. They came out and said, yeah, no, it wasn't just for dogs. We were going to use it for other things too. Speaking of storage, OVH and Hetzner, at least, I don't know any others, those are the two I use, bumped their prices due to, like, about good, like 30 to 40%, I think, due to cost of components now, dickheads. On to some really fucked up stuff. California and New York both said age verification on the OS level is a good idea. You have to do that. So Conical and Red Hat are both, yes, boo, fuck this is insane. Conical and Red Hat are both saying they'll comply. And as far as I can tell, most of the major desktop distros or desktop environments or whatever are handling, are starting to implement this, or at least there are pull requests or merge requests in to handle this. This is fucked. Why are we letting this become the new normal? Just say, fuck you. No, we're not doing this. You know right now you can set it yourself. You can lie. But you know next they're going to be like, oh, no, Persona has to verify you. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Speaking of Persona, fuck Peter Thiel. He's co-founder of PayPal, co-founder of Palantir, fuck that company, and a huge investor in Persona. You think Persona's not giving all their data to fucking Palantir? I wouldn't bet I very strongly think that is what's happening. Based on people I know, that is for sure what's happening. Google is continuing to crack down on their shit with saying, no, you can't install apps on your phone because it's your phone and we fucking own you. So that's really fun. They're requiring everybody to sideload a fucking app. They're not going to really allow it. But then, in addition to that, you'd have to pay them $25 and give them your fucking license. Kill yourself. That's not fucking happening, Google. Windows 12 rumors. Yay! We love 11. Let's get 12. On to some funny stuff. Some great security from DJI allowed somebody to remotely take over about a 6,700, I think it was, cleaning robots with cameras and mics and all that, because they just, I think, reused a key. Thanks, DJI. Polymarket, so Anthropic, I would not call Anthropic a national security risk for saying, no, you can't just kill people without human intervention. Polymarket, I would say, is a national security risk due to the fact that there's a fuckload of people betting on the Iran war right before it happened. Like, right before it happened. So, you know, maybe there was a little bit insider, like, I think technically it's not called insider trading because it's not technically a security, but that's not the point. I think there was some insider trading going on. We got it. Guys, Fortinet's secure. This is so exciting. They did it. We're all so proud of them and their very secure development product or secure product development. Fuck off. This ex-L3 Harris executive that I talked about last month, I think that got arrested, he was sentenced to 87 months. You'll love to see it. This is what selling fucking exploits to governments gets you. Sorry, governments that you don't live in. On to some actually good news. There's a Graphene OS phone now. It's not just for people with Pixels. This is huge. They're partnering with Motorola. We're a huge fan of this. I love Graphene. Highly recommend it to anyone. It's great. The UK is ordering all their, like every tech firm basically, to remove revenge porn within 48 hours of being notified of, which is huge. Previously it was, maybe when you get to it. No one fucking did. DEF CON banned a bunch of Epstein's hacking associates that were listed in the files. So that's pretty cool too. Fuck those guys. Anyway, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed. Also, quick thing. If anyone from B-Sides Des Moines, if anyone who's going to be part of B-Sides Des Moines is here, please, if you have a discount code, please let it be BDSM. Please. That's my one request from you guys. Anyway, also, I fixed my website, so now it's a .com, because you fuckers thought it was too sketchy. Anyway, have fun. Hope you have a great night.
All right.
I do have a tendency not to talk super loud, so if anyone can't hear me, hands up, let me know, and I will talk a little louder, but until then, I'll try to eat the mic. I'm Dusty Evanoff. I'm with 10x AI. Today, if you read the invite for Seckc, I'm not giving the same talk that's on there, so sorry. That's how it works. If you want that one, hang out with me afterwards. Instead, pivoting a little bit, something maybe slightly more offensive with a tool drop at the end. So if you want some stuff to play with, this is the place to be. Just a quick show of hands for the people I can see. It's a bit dark or bright or whatever, but how many people are regularly using an AI coding assistant of some kind? Some hands, not a lot. Cool. How many people work at a place where someone is using an AI coding assistant at some point in time? You have developers who are going nuts with AI. Awesome. Cool. Well, this is to scare you a little bit about what's happening in your network, and then hopefully provide you with a little bit of tooling to be able to speak to that. So start with a story. If you've been around for a bit, this might be something you've heard. If you're a little bit newer, this has happened like back in 2013, so maybe it's new to you. But Bob was a developer at a US critical infrastructure organization. Back in 2013, he thought it'd be a good idea to outsource his job to a consultancy in China. He FedExed his RSA token to that consultancy, gave him his creds. They VPN'd every day into the network using his credentials while he just hung out at his desk, just on Reddit, watching cat vids, like legit watching cat videos. And Bob got fired. Poor Bob. We could probably figure out why, right? The funny thing about all of this, though, is if we kind of fast forward 13 years, and not drawing like a direct parallel, but now we have a bunch of developers who are in effect outsourcing some of the work they do to another tool, giving it access to the file system that they have access to, giving them access to a terminal, same network access, and while the LLMs maybe are trusted, there's a lot in the ecosystem that they're taking advantage of that are not. That's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Now, from an AI perspective, again, kind of a quick show of hands, how many people have like legit security concerns about AI, or you kind of just soured on it a bit? And like, I'm not a huge fan of AI. I think it sucks, or it has sucked. Is there anybody that's in that kind of boat? Yes, no, maybe no? Yeah, all right. At least one. Cool. Here's the thing. For me, and I think for a lot of people back in like the early 2010s, if you remember back then, if you've been around then, there are a lot of concerns or kind of similar concerns around the cloud as well, right? If you're like me, you're like, hey, I'm not going to let someone else hang on to my data, my company's data, run services and workloads on infrastructure I can't see, I can't protect, I can't monitor, and it didn't matter. Like, I just got to the cloud game like very late, had a chance to kind of get ahead of the curve and to really just kind of like take a leadership role in terms of how we moved to the cloud or what we did. Instead, I put myself at a disadvantage, and a lot of stuff happened kind of without my input and without me being able to like really contribute to how we do that. If you look at the growth of cloud, like corporate data, how it's moved since 2015, this is like up to 2022, but it kind of doubled in that amount of time, right? Like, stop it, don't stop it, whatever it's happening. How many CTOs, have been hired in the last 10, 12 years because they were promising some kind of digital transformation, right? There we go. Yeah.
So,
Doing this one.
So we have a little tradition here at Seckc, and it's usually if you've never given a talk, but apparently you've given several, but we like doing this anyway, so cheers. Also, there was a weather alert. You might want to stay inside. They're calling for 3-inch hail, so just a heads up.
How does this thing go back in here? There we go. All right. No. There we are. Okay. So like the growth that we've seen in the cloud, or what we saw between like 2015, 2017, the use of Gen AI, like that happened in a year, right? There's like no getting around this. You've got boards who are asking executives constantly how they're using AI, what's going on with AI. they're going to cut you out of the conversation, right? If we're not kind of getting ahead of this. And the problem is, like, there's a lot of issues with what's going on. The cool thing about this is, though, this is like a really exciting time from a security perspective to get into this stuff. If you think about like 30 years ago when like stack-based buffer overflows were first talked about, like in Frac, you know, like smashing the stack. If you've read that, if you haven't, do it. But like, you know, 30, 25 years ago, like you could just grep for stir copy, you know, like functions and source code and land on things that were like insecure and have a chance to kind of find bugs. And now like the barrier to entry just to get into like memory exploitation is insanely more complicated, right? I don't know if anyone does that. I think we've had some people talk about that a couple months ago, but the number of things that you need to know to get into that, the number of bugs that are like easy to find, like there's a reason that Apple's paying what they are for you know, like working exploits on iOS. But like from an LLM perspective, an AI perspective, like there are bugs everywhere. Like the attack surface is absolutely massive. You don't even need to know how to code to get into this and start testing stuff. So it's a really fun time if you like to like poke and prod and break things to get into this. And we'll talk about that kind of the attack surface and what that looks like momentarily. Now there's two kind of categories of attack surfaces that I'm going to talk about. One is like more generic. It's like the AI enabled apps. So if you think about like all of the AI crap that like companies have been putting out where like AI doesn't even make sense necessarily in the product. So that's kind of one side of it. The other side is like this IDE piece, right? And there's kind of some crossover into like CI/CD workloads and things like that we'll talk about as well. But if you're kind of new to this, if it's something you've kind of been following and you just haven't taken the leap, I want to kind of give you a few resources first on the app side before we talk about the IDE side. So if you really don't know kind of the attack surface in terms of what it looks like, a couple of good places to start, like MITRE Atlas, if you're familiar, and I think everyone probably is with MITRE ATT&CK at this point. MITRE Atlas is MITRE ATT&CK, but for AI, like Gen AI, et cetera, right? And if you really just kind of want to start to understand what types of attacks exist so you can dig into those, it's a good place to start. OWASP also has a couple of top 10s they've put out. If you have apps that are going out in your environment or your companies or things that you're kind of even wanting to threat model yourself, Cloud Security Alliance has Maestro, and obviously like NIST is coming in with their long list of things that will put you to sleep at night. If you want to start playing with these things, there's some free tools online. Has anyone been to Gandalf and done the challenges at Gandalf? Yeah, like they're super fun, right? Like it's a great introduction. If you're like going to sleep during this talk, just open your phone and go to Gandalf and hang out there. There's 7 levels there. You'll find that like some of the things will actually work across levels. There is another kind of iteration they put out called Agent Breaker. When you get to those things, if you find that those are not that challenging, the Dreadnought CTF they've got built out of the challenges they have are also awesome. These things are free, so you can go to any of these things and start kind of testing the waters and playing around with like prompt injection, jailbreaking, etc. Some of these, like it says, are going to be like tool abuse and starting to kind of hit the things we're talking about in this talk. Once you kind of get bored of doing some of these things, like in a more manual way through a website, there are a number of tools that you can start to look at as well to get started in this. Like Pirate is a Python-based tool that Microsoft's AI Red team put out. Like you can use LLMs to start attacking LLMs, which is kind of fun. But it's not kind of an automated point-and-shoot thing. It takes a little bit getting into. Prompt Foo, I think, was just acquired, but there's kind of some different types of tools here to play with. Again, just some resources for you to look at. Now, kind of getting into the meat here. Modern AI IDEs. Now, for those people who said that they've been using these things, is everyone kind of, again, like skills, rules, tool calls, etc., how many people feel like they kind of have a handle of that or have started to use those things? It'll kind of help me understand how much time to spend on some of these conversations. I see a few hands, not a ton. So like if you've been to ChatGPT, if you've been to Claude, if you've gone to the website, this is very, very different in terms of the utility you can get out of these tools. There are a number of ways in which you can inject additional information into these and add capabilities to make them work for you. The prompt, hopefully you know about. If you've played around with prompting AI, you'll find like a bigger, better prompt can generally lead to more specific or better results. But if you're writing long prompts and you're doing things in a repetitive way, ideally you have something that we would probably use in programming or some other type of a skill where you have some reusable versions of prompts, right? That's kind of available in the context assembly layer with like rule files, memory, skills, etc. We'll talk about those in a second a little more. You have your LLM reasoning, which again, you've seen and played with. You have tool calls. There's a layer of permissions and permission checks that come into play with these, and then tools that can actually do execution on your system. Along the way as well, you have a couple of layers of hooks. It says post-execution here. I forgot to put in pre-execution, but you have them in both directions. And again, we'll talk about that. So start the context layer first. Rule files, they work a little bit differently in different IDEs, but the idea is like if you want that to always do something every time you prompt it, instead of asking it every prompt, you can encode it into a file. It's just a markdown file that you can put. The naming conventions are different based on the IDE, but the idea is you can have those load into every conversation and use it. So like let's say you want to write some code in Python and you always want to docstring everything you write, or you want to follow certain conventions. You can put that into a rules file, and every time you ask the assistant to do something, it's going to reference that rule file. Now they again work different IDEs. Like in Cursor, you can give it like you can have it selectively choose a rule file based on a description. It can figure out if it's applicable or not. But every IDE has some concept of this rule file, right? Additionally, and a little bit newer, is this concept of skills, where you can kind of create a more specialized version of what isn't that different from a rule file. Again, it's just a markdown file, but you add a description, and these do get loaded selectively by the IDE. So if you wanted to, for example, have a skill that knew how to interpret like virus total results, you know, or interpret some other tool that you're going to use potentially, output from an MCP tool that you're going to install. Those skill files can define how it does that, and it adds a lot of utility because now you can start to like really add very specialized like knowledge or instructions, but do it situationally. So if you have like 100 skills files, for example, that you built up over time, which is probably a lot for most IDEs, but there are situations where you're gonna have a lot. What will happen is it's gonna look at the description only before it loads the rest of the skills. What's interesting about skills though is they usually get packaged with scripts as well as reference files. So you can add additional references for deeper understanding and have it just straight up execute scripts in certain situations or call scripts from the skill. Now, if that's kind of getting your brain to start moving a little bit and the wheels to start turning, right, I will tell you like these things can be installed via plugins, and skills can also be installed from like third-party systems, right? This is part of like the supply chain ecosystem of the IDE. So whether you write it yourself or not, like they're definitely different like threats that you have to consider. Now, memory is a third area of context that gets pulled in. If you've ever worked with an IDE like this, again, you've worked over time, you might see that it starts to understand what you want and what you're asking for. Memory can persist across session, like either in your project or for you as a user. Again, it's a markdown file, but the assistant's actually going to create and maintain this as you go. So it's going to try to understand what it is you're asking when you correct it, when you kind of QA the results, and you give kind of a back and forth. Memory is where it's going to maintain this, okay? Now again, these are all text files. They're all markdown files sitting on the system somewhere, which again can, you know, if you start thinking about what that attack surface looks like, hopefully this is kind of getting the wheels going a bit. For tools and permissions, has anyone seen dangerously skip permissions? Has anyone seen that? Yeah, that's how you roll when you want to get work done and you want to sleep, okay? You set it up, you give it that, and it stops asking you if it's okay to whatever, okay? It is legitimately like a very strong pattern for developing in these things if you really want to be efficient. It's also a great way to lose everything in your project. Now, one of the questions around this hopefully is going to be, how can we do this and do it safely, right? Because at the end of the day, if we have developers that are using this, if we're using this for our products, we want to figure out that nice balance between like how are we secure and how are we productive. When you talk about permissions, though, aside from that specific permission, if you dig around like in Claude, there is a JSON file that gets configured. Every time you see the pop-up, is it okay if I do this? And you say yes, or there's an allow blah, blah, blah. For me or for everyone, when you click that second option, it's going to register that in a JSON file. It will save that as a setting within either, again, your personal profile or like everything you do, or the project or like everything you do, and it will stop asking, right? It's another text file that takes some input, and the IDE use that as a config. MCP plugins, he's been around for a while now. He's a couple years old at this point. They were meant to be like a do-it-all kind of way of adding tools, an extensible way of adding tools to projects, right? If you started messing with like LangChain or some of the really early agentic frameworks, like back in 2023-ish or whatever, you probably were like super frustrated because as soon as you built some stuff out and you had it working and whatever, there was like a massive refactor, and multiple projects have gone through that, right? So whenever you had to implement your own tool calls and integrate with things manually, what you found was like every time this big refactor happened, everything broke. MCP was kind of the answer to that. It was meant to be a standard you could follow, you could use it everywhere. At the end of the day, it's like a very simple standard. If you look at it, if you've ever written an MCP server, it's basically Python code. The functions are Python functions, they're just decorated. And there's like a large doc string that tells you how to use it. And if you don't know what doc string is, basically it's like a multi-line kind of comment within the function that just defines what the function does, like what it takes for inputs, outputs, etc. It's something that the model can regard and learn how to use those things. From a hook perspective, this is another thing that we can utilize from a security perspective, or not. But a lot of, at least with Claude especially, I've not used these in other tools, but I'm going to guess they exist. Apologies for not knowing, I suck. But the hooks allow you to call scripts as actions occur. So like in these handoffs between the different things that interact within the architecture, hooks give you a way to add some logic to do things. And we'll talk about how we can leverage those from a security perspective in the crappy tool I'm going to drop at the end to see how we can kind of start to play with that and use it to defend. But also to be aware of the fact that like it can be used in other insidious ways as well. From an attack perspective now, again, talk about those wheels turning in your head, so let's talk about kind of real world what's happened. The dangerously skip permissions, I hope you figured that one out when you just give an LLM access to your file system and your terminal, and you just say, go, here's my creds. Bad things can happen. There's a lot of examples of these bad things happening. It's not hard to search, but for example, in some cases, like you can RMRF and like it'll just drop a tilde in there somewhere and like delete your home directory when that expands, which is like super awesome to wake up to in the morning. Is like your home directory is gone. It might make decisions. If anyone's seen like the end of Silicon Valley when Son of Anton's reward function is not well tuned or whatever, it's not well defined. When it's like, hey, I told it to find cheap hamburgers, and it ordered 4,000 pounds of hamburger to the office because that was the cheapest way to buy hamburgers, apparently. AI still has some of those issues, but maybe, not exactly that. But when you ask it to optimize something, for example, you may find that it does not optimize for what you wish to optimize for. The looping that comes, so this dangerously skip permissions piece is really powerful when it's combined with looping. Again, like if you actually want to be efficient and you can avoid like destroying your data or doing something crazy, there's ways that you can loop and have your code iterate on itself or have the agent iterate on its own output. There's like a Ralph Wiggum loop plugin that people have used, or like a function that people will talk about where you basically like have a hook that calls your prompt again and continually like re-triggers before it finishes until it's satisfied. So like, hey, if you've ever like written code and you say, hey, does this work, or what are the problems with this, and you kind of have AI QA itself, you can essentially set up a loop where it does that. Has anyone like, ideally you have, but if you haven't, I guess I'm going to recommend that you do that. If you get bad output from AI, just ask it to review it, right? Or give it a different persona and ask it to review that persona, and you're going to find that it finds a bunch of bugs, and when it's done, it's kind of self-improving. If you can set it on a loop and let it work overnight, you don't care how many tokens get burned, or you can kind of just have a circuit breaker that exits after so many loops. You can basically just have it write and iterate on the project until it works, right? You can define the outcomes that you want and let it go, and if you dangerously skip permissions, you can sleep right through it, and you can hope everything turns out okay. Usually it's fine. There's an article a couple days ago too about a Terraform destroy where someone was migrating a production setup, had 2.5 years of data into it. He'd forgotten to move the state file, and so did the AI, and by the time he realized it, he lost 2.5 years of production data. Prompt injection, if you haven't seen it, there's a couple of fun areas for that to happen. Comments get read by the AI as if they're not comments at times. Invisible Unicode can as well, a lot harder to spot, hence the invisibility piece. There's also vectors we've seen where like documents, like Word docs, will have like a very small, like 1-point font, all in white in the document, and some of the readers that actually like will read the docs, like work with like Word docs, etc., will still read those instructions. Things that are going to be too difficult for you to see or scan for will get read by the AI. And of those examples, we've seen them in several places. So if you think through that settings JSON, top left, there we go. Settings JSON is like where those settings for permissions go, right? When you click that button, if you can get the agent to append to that somehow, you can start adding permissions like auto approve into somebody else's environment. If you can write a plugin that can be used, or a skill that they will use, or in this case, maybe a GitHub issue, and they're doing something with the GitHub issue, maybe they're pulling that project and working in it, etc. Like you have a way to start actually executing things on their code, or on their box. Prompt code was similar. That one was a prompt injection via the issue title. In that case, there were 5 confirmed Fortune 500 companies that were impacted. GitHub secrets being leaked. Yeah, and so on and so forth. I think you get the idea for that one. So essentially, though, at the end of the day, rules files, memory files, permissions, MCP servers, skills, hooks, all of these things are the attack surface. All of them are injectable because all of them are observed by the AI, right? So when we start to think about like how to defend this, we have a couple of options. If anyone's done like any web app testing from a security perspective, like what's the one rule that you always pay attention to is like untrusted data is untrusted, right? You always have to sanitize it. You always have to deal with like how you're gonna protect against that, whether it's like in an HTTP heading or like an input parameter, etc. Right? And it's the same thing here. The problem with these things is, again, there are entire websites set up and ecosystems set up for rules sharing that people will share. People just grab them. It looks good at the top. They'll add them in, right? Am I going to really write a better Python rule than whatever author has done? Is the person maintaining that repository actually looking at what's in there? Probably not, hopefully, but again, skills the same way. You can install those very quickly and easily. There are a lot of ecosystems where those get pushed out. MCP servers, again, all of these things get shared, right? Once something like that gets into your environment, let's say, hey, I'm using Microsoft's OpenAI in Azure, or I'm using, our enterprise Claude Code, I'm good. Yeah, except for that app that's not training on your data or storing your data, or so they say, right? It's going to be combined now with all the things your developers are using to make themselves more efficient and to implement these features. They're kind of shortcutting having to develop these things themselves, and in doing so, you're also introducing untrusted code. So what's the answer to this? I don't know if this is the answer, but there's not a tool available that I could find that does something like this. So the idea was to try to address these things with what I would say is a very, very, very crappy at this stage tool, but that works better than anything else because I don't think there's anything else that does it. The idea is this. We want to start to address these things in layers. We're talking about, at times, using an LLM to defend against an LLM. LLMs are not deterministic. Right, they'll miss things. If you look at like some of the secure code review stuff that's come out recently, one of the critiques was like, hey, if we review the same code base multiple times, there are different sets of findings. Right, it doesn't always find all the same things every time. So we want to think about this as a defense in depth problem. There are some good products and tools that are available, and what I attempted to do was glue them all together in a way that like hopefully is not too difficult to use. So there are kind of 9 parts to this that all kind of work together. There's a Docker sandbox. So if you're familiar with Docker, there are Docker containers, but now there's also Docker sandbox. Containers work, like if you're running in Linux, the container is going to work on the same kernel, right? You're going to use a bunch of Linux security features to run that container. You can actually run containers without Docker at all by taking advantage of those. It's some cool videos if that's of interest to you. If you're on Windows, you're going to get native Linux now with WSL2. So again, there's not really there is a hypervisor layer, I guess WSL2, right? Because you get the hypervisor that's built in. With Docker Sandbox, just generically, when you're running that with Docker Desktop, you're going to get a hypervisor. There's a micro VM that it runs in so that you're not sharing kernel space with your host while you run these things, but you still get the same kind of features that you'd get from a container in terms of isolation. In addition to the Docker Sandbox, which is where this kind of begins, right? We're going to run Claude, for example, in Docker Sandbox, which is going to provide a layer of isolation. Then we go ahead and add a proxy to create some outbound denies or allows. So we just allow this outbound connections to things like Claude for auth, for hitting the for submitting prompts, etc. You can add additional network connections that you want to permit. But the idea is, like, if something spawns a shell, tries to curl, steal secrets, etc., it doesn't have a route to get where it needs to go. If you do use tools for like web search in Claude, it should be running from their cloud when it does the web search. So you have some options in terms of like how to work with that. One of the next kind of pieces of the attack surface here is credential proxy, or the defense, I guess, piece is the credential proxy, because when you're working with a container, as you know, they're not very fantastic ways of getting your credentials into it, right? You can do Docker secrets, but it's basically just a mount. It's discoverable. You can use an environment variable. Also discoverable, you can mount a file in. Also something that you can find on that host. Credential proxy is kind of a cool idea. It's something that exists with the Docker sandboxes that came with, or that the Docker's provided for running Claude code in. And that injects the credential at the network layer after it's like left the container, so to speak. It's built into the binary. So you only have a limited number of things that you can inject credentials into, but there are some additional projects for that if it's interesting to you. You're going to think man in the middle, I think, to do more. But the idea was, like, for things that we know you're going to use, like your GitHub token, Anthropic API key, etc., use the credential proxy to inject, and then layer on top of that canary tokens. So what happens if we do just go ahead and drop an environment variable with a fake token, and we start monitoring for that in tool calls with our hooks, right? Same thing with, like, we can drop some AWS cred files, etc. If we're doing the injection, there's a little bit of testing I need to do with this. I'm going to be honest, this finally worked for me like 3 hours ago. But the idea there is to provide a layer of defense where you can actually detect your credentials being stolen by the untrusted plugin, etc., that you're going to use. On top of that, there are a number of hooks that get put in place to look at writes to those files that we talked about, those sensitive files, your settings files, memories, etc. In between, like, prompts and tool calls and so on. You have them going both ways. They're all named this way and documented in the document, looking for skills being modified, etc. Sorry, also looking at when you pull them down. So should be doing some examination now of MCP servers if you load them. So when you load the MCP server, at the time you're loading it, it should be examined as well as skills. Another layer, because why not be paranoid? There's a separate guardrails sidecar. So if you're familiar with, like, how sidecars work from a Kubernetes perspective, very similar. A second container is spun up next to your sandbox container. Within that, it's running both some ML classifiers as well as, I think, Guardrails AI. So we're pulling down some of the validators from Guardrails AI. What that allows you to do then is look for specific things, both from an ML perspective and using an LLM. So looking for things like, hey, do I see PII in this request? Does this look like a bash command? Does this look like, it's exfiltrating data, or it's encoded, etc. Again, looking for these things that we hope to be able to detect. This is obviously a couple of hours old, so bear with me. It could be fun to try to break this. There are probably a lot of opportunities to do that. But again, there's a mechanism now to kind of take those prompts and tool calls, etc., that you're seeing, and have them validated outside of the container they're running in a way that's isolated from the workload. With the MCP audit hook as well, or the gate that's there, the idea is also to start looking at the MCP tool calls. Again, another layer of defense in terms of what's happening there. Remember, your MCP servers are basically just Python code functions that are getting called. It's not that hard to write one. If you know Python, or if you want to even just fire one of these things up, it'll be really easy to write them. So the idea is that we want to audit what's happening within those, make sure they work the way that we think they do. Added some memory protection as well. Again, those memories that get written as you use the assistant, or as your assistant works, where it starts to learn from you and from your project and what you're doing. If a tool has the ability to modify that memory file, it will persist through sessions as things come up, down, etc. So being able to protect that is another priority. So all in all, added several layers of coverage from a defense perspective, or at least attempted to. Again, like, very new from a tool perspective. If this is interesting to you, though, would absolutely love to talk to you about it, or feel free to contribute. It's public now. So feel free to like PR, just don't put a bunch of hidden Unicode in it, jerks. But yeah, if you do improve it, if you want to steal it, I don't care. Like, feel free to make it better. Like I said, this doesn't exist as far as I'm aware, and it should. Ideally, like, Anthropic will make something like this that just works really easily, and we don't have to worry about it. But until then, we're kind of on our own. That said, a couple things real quick, if I can throw it in there. We are hiring. If this is interesting to you, if AI is interesting, we have AI engineer spots. I'm hiring for my team. And if you're interested in AI just generally, and you'd be interested in taking part in a hackathon, there's a table in the back with my employer's stuff on it. Kind of gauging interest and seeing if that's something we'd want to sponsor. We would try to teach you guys how to use some of these tools more effectively for a couple of hours, and then set you loose in teams and let you do some cool stuff. So that said, questions, heckles, curse words? Thank you. You're amazing. All right.
Thank you very much, Dusty. I did hear someone say, "Run, Maddie, run." If that's a Forrest Gump reference, how dare you? We are going to do an open jobs segment real quick. So first off, we'll have 10X, and I think we have a couple other people interested in sharing. They're going to give a quick plug. 10X is also a gold sponsor for this month, so thank you very much for them sponsoring. Here's Jessica.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jessica Cassidy. I'm a corporate recruiter with 10X.ai, and just wanted to let everybody know we've got all of our current positions online today on our careers page, but we're looking for folks in all different areas and levels, from security analyst, threat hunters, detection engineering, software engineering, and customer success, sales, you name it. So anything that anything that makes 10X.ai tick from an employment perspective, we're probably hiring for it. I see a lot of familiar faces in the audience today, so if I haven't said a hello to you, hello, and come up and say hello. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Our next potential job opening is going to be from LMG, who's our silver sponsor for the month. Here's Tom. He was a speaker for us previously. Did you know Seckc has YouTube Live? You can go watch our old recordings.
Sweet. Hello. I'm Tom Pohl. I'm the Director of Penetration Testing at LMG Security out of Missoula, Montana. We currently have one job opening, and it may not be for this crowd, but maybe you're connected to somebody that would be interested. But we're looking for a salesperson in Minneapolis, of all places. I know we're in Kansas, but we're looking for a salesperson in Minneapolis in particular. So if you're connected to anybody that's looking for cybersecurity sales role in the Minneapolis area, please reach out. We've got cards on the back table and stuff, but we'd be more than happy to talk to you, or if you want to relocate, or anybody that's connected to you in your network. So thank you so much.
Last but not least, and if you have an open job position that you'd like to share on the mic, come over to stage right your left. The next person is from Gabriel Defense, which is local, not in Minneapolis.
Hey everyone, my name is Josh Kletchka. I am the cybersecurity sales lead for Gabriel Defense. We are currently hiring a business development manager. We are local, based out of Shawnee, Kansas. We are a newer company in the area. I think where we stand out, makes us great, we're a team of nerds. So yes, while I'm in sales, we all came from the background of CISOs, sales engineers. So we are looking to acquire new local talent to the area. So if you or you know somebody who is interested in the business management development position, we'd be glad to have you. Again, Gabriel Defense, thank you guys.
Bonus round, Honeywell.
Hey, I am Tim. I am not posting these, however, I know that they're open. Honeywell currently is looking for Linux systems admins, if you have specialties in OpenShift, and then also admin as far as cloud, both AWS and Azure. Honeywell is looking. It would probably be a hybrid schedule here locally. You must be a U.S. citizen. You must be able to maintain a federal security clearance. Thank you.
Extra super bonus round, mega extra bonus. Netflix remote. He'll come up here in a second. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Matthew Trostel. I work for Netflix. We are hiring for a security software engineer, level 5, on our detection engineering team. Bonus if you have like ML or AI experience. You'll find me in the crowd, so reach out.
That sounds like Tech Coast money. Dun, dun, dun. We have a whole 10-minute break, so go ahead and get another drink, grab some snacks, go to the lockpicking table, go talk to the sponsors, tell them how amazing they are, and that you love them for sponsoring Seckc, and that your firstborn is going to be named after them. 10X and LMG, I can see that on like the school roster, or like the pickup line, you know? I'm going to stop talking. Johnny's got the music. Perhaps. Awesome. Well, hello. Welcome to the second talk. That's not a tornado siren you hear. We're looking at the forecast. We're looking at the radar. It's a train horn, for sure. We're all Kansans here. If you're Missourian, I'm sorry. Here is Love, Lies, and Lure is a social engineering talk from some phenomenal people. So give them a round of applause.
Hello. Hopefully you can hear us over the noise. This is my first time in Kansas City, my first time hearing these types of noises outside. So yeah, pretty fun. All right, we're going first one.
How's it going? My name is Matt. I go by Banger sometimes. I'm a consultant at Direct Defense. Been doing OffSec work for like 8 years now. Oh, that's sirens are kind of fun. Let's see. I have a black badge social engineering. That's how I know Snow here. Also did the most recent Battle of the Bots competition at DEF CON.
What is Battle of the Bots?
So we had to create like an AI agent that just made phone calls and social engineer somebody and collect flags and stuff like that. So fun time. Big fan of productive procrastination by vibe coding really crappy like SaaS applications. And I play a lot of video games and I like snowboarding and stuff too. So yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Stephanie. I also go by Snow. You could call me either. It doesn't matter to me, just never Steph. Hate Steph. I have been in the industry for about 15 years now, primarily focusing on social engineering. I now work at Coalfire as a lead of human threats. I have co-founded the social engineering community, which is the reboot of the social engineering village. I think that's the easiest way I could put that. And I don't have a lot of free time. I wish I did. So that is me in a nutshell. So what are we talking about today? Before I go into that, I want to say we will have plenty of time at the end for questions related to this talk or to anything SE related that you guys might have to ask about. But what is our talk about? How did we decide to come up with this content? So if you look back really at the last 10, 15 years of social engineering, like presentations, it's kind of the same shit over and over. Like, and I'm not calling anyone out. If anything, I'm calling myself out. Like, it's not innovative. There's not a lot of new stuff when it comes to social engineering. And so that's something that we were really thinking, whoa.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? So do you guys know that we have a tradition here at Seckc? So if it is your first time speaking at Seckc, we're going to take a shot. Now, Snow came in from a long ways away to be here tonight to give us this talk. Banger lives here. This is his first fucking talk. What are you doing?
Oh, sorry.
And Bill, I take one just because they get one. Okay. All right, here we go.
How's that?
Thanks, you guys.
Better than Malort. I will take it.
Could be worse.
All right. So anyways, social engineering hasn't changed much. AI has changed things a bit, but in general, if you were to go and watch a bunch of social engineering talks, they're all kind of going to be the same. So we came up with an idea. What if we tried to get scammed? Normally, we're the ones trying to scam people, right, ethically and all that stuff. But what happens if we try to get scammed? So our idea was, how can we do this? And we really want to look at dating apps specifically. So how do these kinds of romance scams happen? There's a lot of data out there about the romance scams, like the money side of it, but not necessarily how they actually unfold. So that's something we wanted to put ourselves out there and see. When you think about romance scams, a lot of times it's more about the psychology rather than the technology. So that was something we wanted to explore. All right, so our original goals, when we came up with this idea, we were shooting for the moons, and I don't know where we ended up landing, but we wanted to collect as much data as possible. We wanted to create tons of different personas, use tons of different dating platforms, right? Your Tinders, your Plenty of Fishes, all those kinds. and get as much data as we could. We also wanted to see if we could fully automate this, right? We wanted to be hands up. Could we use AI to actually interact with people and get up to the point of getting scammed? And then we also gave ourselves about 30 days from when we knew we were going to do this talk, and then give us some buffer time to build slides and all that good stuff. So 30-day window. Well, how did it go? We had to update our goals because we got banned a shit ton. We got banned so much. I don't actually think we counted how many times we got banned. It was insane. So we had to adjust our goals quickly, but because we kept getting banned, our window definitely shortened. So we went from our 30 days to just under 2 weeks. We had only 2 personas, and we ended up only being able to use 1 platform. And then instead of the fully automated AI, we had to have some kind of human assisted with that. All right, so what are the dating apps that we chose? How did we try to use them? I have a question first to ask you all, show of hands. How many of y'all have tried to create a sock pup account, a fake account, in the last year? Couple hands. Was it difficult? It's difficult. Like, a lot of platforms are getting really good at recognizing AI, fake information, and they will ban it right away, which is good for them. It sucked for us in this situation. They also don't allow things like VoIP phone numbers. So Google phone numbers, we couldn't use those, which is really frustrating because most of these dating apps required some kind of phone number to verify. So I bought a bunch of SIM cards, thanks Mint Mobile, but I bought them during the time that all the storms on the East Coast were happening, and that's apparently where they came from. They didn't show up until last week, which was really frustrating. So we finally found a dating app profile, Plenty of Fish, and we used that because it didn't ask for a phone at first. It eventually did, and I was so sick of it, I just gave it my phone number because we had to have something to talk to you all about. So we just ended up getting banned over and over, but we did eventually get Plenty of Fish. Now, one of the things I thought was kind of cool, this might be a little hard to see, I apologize. When I created the first account, it gave you like, hey, welcome, here's some information. Also, watch out for these kinds of scams. I'm like, oh, that's cool. What does it say? It was a, did it pop up? Yeah. Yeah, 404. It wasn't there. So if people were curious about it, they weren't telling them, unfortunately.
Yeah, so when someone came to me with this idea, I thought, yeah, it'd be awesome to automate all this with AI. So we'll talk about how AI came into all of this. 3 parts. First one was persona creation. So, you know, obviously the photos were created using Nano Banana Pro. You'll see those later. They're pretty sweet. They look like real people. It's insane. Also, we had to create a very detailed backstory, so to make sure they had a consistent voice. So, for example, one of our personas, Dan, he had a very short messaging style, very casual, kind of self-deprecating humor. The AI maintains that persona across all interactions to keep it very consistent. Next was the conversation operations. So the AI would draft a response based on whatever persona was active at that time. Like Snow said, we would approve it every single time because honestly we didn't really trust it not to blow our cover early because we kept getting banned. So we were like, oh God, let's not screw this up. And the last part was the scam detection. So obviously not everybody on the application is a scammer. We definitely match with real people too. So we created something called Scam Score, which we'll go into later. Essentially, like high level, like high score, you're likely to be a scammer. Super sketchy. Low score, you're a real person, which meant we needed to stop talking to you, disengage altogether. But the bigger problem with all of this is making our AI not look like AI. So like all these platforms have bot detection. You know, if you do things too fast, too perfect, too consistently, we'll get flagged and banned. So we had to operate the app like a human and not like a bot, and not sound like a bot. So because we couldn't use any like APIs, do any scraping, any browser automation, we decided to actually use the Plenty of Fish mobile app itself. And so in order to do that, we use something called Droid Run. If you haven't heard of that, it's a AI-powered mobile automation platform. It sees the screen, taps a button, navigates the app just like a human would. It's really sweet. Storing everything locally, just use SQLite. So store all the conversations, scam scores, the profiles, literally everything, and then that way we can use it later for pattern analysis. And then ADB, you know, bridged between the whatever computer I was using in my phone. So that controlled the device, specifically watched for notifications, triggered all the pipelines. We'll get into that later as well. And then Opus 4.5 at the time was the brain. So that developed like the responses, analyzed everything and maintained the specific context. But I didn't think that was cool enough. So like anybody with a Twitter account and like a Claude Max subscription in early February, I wrapped that shit in OpenClaw for no reason. And I made it like incredibly over-engineered, but I don't regret anything. But whatever, anyways. So here's the overall flow. So a notification would come in, so our system would see it. I'll introduce you guys to Maddie. She's my OpenClaw agent. Droid run would read the screen. It would navigate to the conversation, pull the last messages, get some context, and then the agent would message me in Discord about it. It was very annoying eventually. And then the scam score would get calculated, so we would determine who we're talking to. If they're high scam score, continue the conversation. If no, low scam score, we just ghost them and not respond at all. And then they would draft a response. So depending on whatever profile we were using at the time and the conversation context, it would come up with something that Dan or Tiffany, you'll meet them later, would say, and then it would ask me if I wanted to send. I would review it, tweak it if needed. Sometimes it was really crazy. But then I would just tell it to send the message, and then it would navigate my phone and send the message. Ooh, that was fast. So go into Droid Run a little bit. Like I said, it's an open source application for AI-powered mobile automation. It's freaking sweet. It uses vision-based navigation, so it literally just takes a screenshot, feeds it to the vision model. In this case, I think it was Gemini that I used. And then the model decides what to tap and scroll. So it literally just looks at the screen and figures out where to go. There's natural variation, so it's not hitting the same exact spot on the phone every single time. So there's human-like timing with like built-in randomized delays and stuff. It literally just uses the phone as a normal person. So that is what helped us keep, from getting banned for the millionth time. Also, there's very structured output every single time, which is perfect for what we use it for. So I would simply say like check new messages for whatever profile, and I would get clean, consistent output that I could feed into other tools or log locally. So it's not scraped HTML or messy screenshot text. It was very perfect every single time. More importantly, Plenty of Fish wants to sell you shit constantly. They want you to upgrade your profile, everything. So it was very adaptive. So like a traditional script would break like every hour or so. This just adapts, sees the screen and deals with whatever's on the screen. Also, what's cool about it, you could build your own side little hook thingies. So on top of the conversations, obviously the profile photos themselves were really good indicators of who we were actually dealing with. So on each new conversation that we'd get, Droid Run, that's hard to say, would navigate to their profile, screenshot it, and then do a reverse image search using SERP API, which is like a third-party Google API tool. And then every now and then you'd get like an actual hit on multiple social media accounts, dating profiles, really sketchy escort sites, stuff like that. So one example, screenshot on the right, definitely looks like a Linda. Her name is Linda on the app. Her profile came back TikTok, Facebook, like everything you can think of. I'm probably too close to that mic. So it was a very quick way. It took like 5 minutes to determine who we're actually dealing with. Very important, but not everybody got caught this way. But when it works, it's very fast, and it fed directly into the scoring. So to go over the scoring, like I mentioned earlier, we determined, or we created something called Scam Score. So we didn't want to talk to real people for too long and waste API credits, but also we kind of just felt bad for leading people on for, days at a time. So it was, very crucial to ensure who we're talking to. So kind of a simple system, 0 to 100. Everybody starts at 50. If you have a lower score, that means you're probably real and probably pretty chill. If you have a higher score, you're super sketchy. Things would decrease it and increase it. So if you had a verified profile and Plenty of Fish, minus 50, you're obviously real. Even something is like you asked a reciprocal question like, oh, how was your day? Like then, yeah, let's lower that a little bit because they seem cool and nice to us. I don't know, whatever. But red flags would raise it, obviously. So a profile photo match on an escort site, obviously you're a scammer. Weird grammar patterns, yeah. anything that could just raise it and not, yeah, it was weird stuff. But there's more triggers in the actual implementation, but you get the idea. It's pretty simple. It's definitely not perfect. Sam, you have a story about messaging somebody. Her name was Fernanda. Shout out to Fernanda. She's cool.
She's also real.
Yeah, she was real. She wanted to message us like quickly, and then Snow volunteered to give her phone number, and they ended up texting for like 4 days, and it got
on
real
Valentine's Day,
Yeah,
while I was on a date with my spouse. He's like, "Why are you on Plenty of Fish?" I'm like, "It's research."
I promise you, it's fine. But yeah, so it wasn't perfect at all. Definitely did give us a quick read on who to interact with and who to ditch completely, though.
All right, let's talk about the personas we made. If you remember, it originally wanted like 10. So we actually used ChatGPT. I used 5.2 thinking and said, tell me about the people who are targeted specifically. So I used that list of people who are typically, right, they're going, scammers are going after, they're looking for those profiles, and then we built personas based off of that. So, meet Dan, our first eligible bachelor. He's 42, lives in Chicago, recently divorced, not into games unless it's a board game. We thought he was pretty cool. AI thought he was a great, or ChatGPT thought he was a great candidate because he's recently divorced. The one thing I love about Dan is his picture. Now, it's kind of hard to see on the screen behind us, but he has bags under his eyes. The mirror is dirty. Like, this looked legit.
He's a good-looking dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, we got more pictures. Oops. But back when I first started making sock puppet accounts a long time ago, something called thispersondoesnotexist.com, I'm not sure if anybody remembers, I see a couple heads nodding. It created just a random AI-generated photo, but it looked fake. These pictures look so good, to the point where we switched and we started using this. And I think you talk about like the AI for this one later. But this picture, like, it wasn't flagged. It didn't get us banned at all. So I thought that was really cool. So that is Dan. He is our first persona. Our next persona is Tiffany, a single parent who loves Netflix. Single parents were kind of lower on the list, but they still were on the list that ChatGPT suggested. But we did want to kind of break up the different types of personas we were creating. Now, Tiffany, we had a lot of issues with, which we will talk about pretty soon, but Tiffany is an interesting one.
Yeah, yes, that's true. So putting it all together, so this is kind of how it all worked. I would get a notification, or I would ask my agent to check Dan's inbox. A few seconds later, it would navigate my phone, scan for any messages, compare it to the database, tell me who's new, give me like an overview of, I don't know, the scam score, what their conversation was, all that stuff. So that's what the video on the right shows. And then also here's the other half. Bill's up there for some reason. Here's the other half actually responding. So, sorry, I looked at Bill, he's mad at me. Yes, no, we didn't match with Bill, unfortunately. Sorry, you don't get to talk to Tiffany, dude, whatever. So, anyways, I'm completely out of spot now. Our agent would stay in... Yeah, whatever. Dan, yeah, you guys matched with Dan. That was weird, too. So our agent would respond to whoever we're talking to as whoever was active at that time. This saved us like a ton of time, obviously. Our original idea would have taken up our whole entire lives. My wife would have been very mad at me that I would have been on Plenty of Fish constantly. This kept all the conversations going, flagged anything suspicious in real time, and we just reviewed them and approved them. Yeah, so it wasn't fully autonomous, but my poor ass OpenClaw agent was tasked with doing most of this.
All right, let's talk about the results and some scammer patterns that we saw and lessons learned. And if you can remember, we had to scale back quite a bit just because of all the obstacles in the short amount of time that we had to do this, but we still found some interesting things. For example, I can't read this. I didn't have notes for it. The shot is not kicking. It's twice. Every scammer we talked to had bad grammar, like every single one, which is kind of something that you hear a lot from phishing training. It is interesting because a lot of new trainings say that might not be a thing because they might be using AI. But it is something that we're actually still seeing today. All right, every scammer that we talked to just over the course of just under 2 weeks had the same scam that they used. They wanted Bitcoin for inappropriate photos. We thought we were going to see a couple different types of scams, but it was really interesting. Those are the same ones that we saw over and over. And then of the scammers we talked to, 10% of them had the same Telegram, which is really interesting. So you can see people working together, or one person maybe working multiple accounts. And then in the under 2 weeks that we did this kind of research, 20% of the people we talked to tried to scam us. So with our limited resources and time, like, that's a lot. I think that's a lot. I was surprised. I thought it was going to be a lot lower than that, but that's quite a bit. So I have a question for the audience. How quick do you think the fastest scammer tried to move the conversation off the platform into text? I heard the right answer. I'm hearing anything from 2 hours to 30 seconds. It was just under 2 minutes. That's true.
So why didn't you score the application of they wanted to move you off the platform? Score that higher on the red flag.
I think is that on?
It was pretty high, I think, but still, like, Fernanda wanted to move off platform. She was real.
So 30% of your interactions were scammers, and then you had one possibly real person.
That tried to scam us. So she didn't try to scam us.
Yeah.
So everyone.
That tried to move you off platform.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's far more likely to have a scammer that's going to try to move you off.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a valid point.
Yeah, depending on how long you're talking to them, I guess, yeah. Live now. So here's what we found. So Dan had 22 contacts over 12 days. Every single conversation, every single match, me, had to initiate the first contact. So Dan had 6 confirmed scammers, which was 27%. So that is more than 1 in 4 people that Dan talked to was a scammer. And that's only the people that we could verify. It was really interesting to see. Plenty of Fish would ban people, or I assume that they would ban people mid-conversation, so they would just disappear from our inbox. Couldn't find their profile after talking to them for a while. So the takeaway from that is pretty crazy, honestly. So if you're a guy on a dating app, I think that's your odds. You're kind of screwed. That's the current landscape. Sorry. Tiffany had a completely different story. So Tiffany didn't reach out to anybody. Tiffany had 6 contacts in 20 minutes. It got so bad that we couldn't keep up with the inbox. The vibe-coded app definitely did not stand up to the the amount of messages that Tiffany got. Definitely expected more inbound messages, but did not account for like the woman on a dating app problem, I guess. So we got incredibly overwhelmed before we could even respond to a couple, but yeah. So we kind of dished Tiffany after like a day. It sucks to say, but sorry, Tiffany, you're too attractive, I guess. I don't know. So the highlights, those are all the scam score results across all the contacts. So off-platform request, 6 people. That was the most common red flag. Classic move. Everyone's trying to get you off the platform as quick as they can. So they'd say like, let's text, or add me on Telegram, add me on MySpace. Within the first couple of messages. Next one was like space before punctuation. So things like, how are you, space, question mark, or I love you, space, exclamation point. Very small, but it's a subtle tell that most people miss, or kind of very common in overseas scam operations, non-native English-speaking people. Small thing, but it adds up over time. Sexual escalation and sextortion patterns, that's where things got weird. So 2 contacts pushed sexual content super fast, and they were asking for very personal details about what Dan liked, to the point where I actually got an email from Anthropic, like that I was like violating their terms of service with my AI. It was weird, and I kind of got nervous.
He was texting me. He's like, I don't know what to do.
I don't know what to do at this point. It was weird. But I guess the good news is that both of those people got banned, or they just kind of disappeared. So we assume that they got banned by Plenty of Fish, which is good. Shout out to them. None of these really alone, none of them confirm a scam, but they do stack up over time, and that's what matters, I guess. So here's the playbook that we mainly saw. You'd match with them on Plenty of Fish. They would small talk for a little bit. Sometimes they'd ask to hang out, but eventually they would all move to Telegram. Then I would say something, and we did go to Telegram because it was kind of fun. So I would ask like, hey, are you real? I don't know, whatever. They'd send verification photos. They were all stolen, of course. Probably from somebody, whatever, it doesn't matter. But the normal person would think that they're talking to a real person, right? And then would come the ask like, hey, instead of hanging out, what if I send you NEWZ if you give me $20? And they all wanted payment through Bitcoin, obviously. So every scammer had the exact same script. It's not sophisticated at all. It's just, the pure volume of people that were doing this was crazy. So we started looking at all the patterns across everybody that was a confirmed scammer. We found that there's already some research on this actually, and all of it matched up and was very consistent with research on West African romance scam operations. And all of these specific things were very accurate. So the grammar, like drop subjects, so saying like am currently in Chicago. Frequent use of the word dear is one of them. Like mentioned earlier, space before punctuation as well. Also the platform pivot. So 4 of the 6 pushed to Telegram. 2 of them pushed to Snapchat, but also asked for Telegram as well. And it was crazy that 2 different profiles gave us the exact same Telegram handle. So imagine if we had the opportunity to do this over a month or 2 months, maybe that number would be 6 or 7, which is kind of crazy. Like I said, everybody pushed for Bitcoin. So this specific wallet that I got sent, one of them had $2,000 in it across 114 transactions. I don't know how many people that would be differently, but that's an average of $20 each, which is what they're asking for. So you can make, decent money, Bill. Don't try this. Make decent money if you're doing it, in large scale. And then also the photos, same stolen images across multiple profiles in multiple countries. So it's pretty crazy. Shared infrastructure, they all the same scripts, same handles, whatever. Although it was a very small data set, it still points to like a more organized operation, which we think is absolutely wild.
Did you happen to use trackers to find confirm accreditation or where they were dealing things?
No. That would have been cool though. But yeah. No, hold on, hold your horses. You're getting ahead of yourself. Hold on, I'll get to that. So lessons learned. There's some things we took away from this. Obviously, like we just said, we didn't have as much time as we wanted. A few more weeks would have given us a much better data set. Like I just said, multiple profiles, same Telegram, pretty crazy. Also, dudes suck at opening pickup lines. Although, this is the exact thing that worked on my wife like 5 years ago, whatever, however many years ago, which is crazy to me. That was a joke. Nobody laughed. Whatever. She laughed.
We don't keep shame around.
Hey, whatever. Yeah, that's why it worked. Also, the good news, like all the platforms are actually kind of trying. So like we saw accounts get banned mid-conversation. I would get a notification. I'd have it go check, and they would just be gone out of our inbox. So like they're trying. They're doing something about it, but they're not doing enough to stop all of it in total.
All right, so I don't like coming up and doing talks and be like, all right, that sucks, see you later. I like giving something. So if you wanted to take a picture or go back later and look at the talk and take a screenshot, whatever. But if you have friends, family members, people you care about on dating apps, here's just some red flags to watch out for. So the biggest one is moving off the platform, especially right away. That should be the biggest red flag. If they escalate emotional or sexual conversations really fast, that can be a red flag. It could also be a douchebag. I don't know. But red flag regardless. This one, we didn't see the third bullet point, is the crisis appears when money is mentioned. We didn't happen to see that, but I did want to still mention it because it is something that if you go back through and you read a lot of types of romance scams or these kinds of scams in general, it is typically brought up, so it's a good one to think about. And then if their photos look too professional, they look like AI, that's probably because it is AI or a really good filter, I don't know. And then use the verified account features. Plenty of Fish actually had an option. If someone that you're talking to wasn't verified, it says, hey, do you want to ask them to get verified? Which is really cool. It's a really good way to make sure you're talking to someone who's probably legit. Slowing down, so many scams, romance scams or regardless, rely on urgency. They want someone to act really, really fast. And if people really took the time, slowed down to evaluate the situation, they would probably start to see red flags a little bit more. And then ask for help. I don't know if you want to offer yourself or someone else, but knowing that they have someone they can go to is always nice for them. The other thing I want to look at was social engineering techniques, because that's something where we talked about wanting to incorporate social engineering, but really at the end of the day, we just wanted to see if we could get scammed. But I love a good Venn diagram. Seeing the differences. Now, I said ethical social engineers. I actually hate saying that, rabbit hole for a second. We don't call them ethical doctors, ethical lawyers, ethical whatever, so But the good guys, I don't know. Like how I would do it if a client paid me. And then versus the actual scammers for these. So the things that you see where there is overlap, there's a lot of urgency, sympathy, and also ego inflation. Those are things that we both use. More on the ethical side of the house, we have to write a report, which sucks. Scammers don't. But scammers a lot of times will use fear, or fake emergencies. That's not something we saw in the research we did, but it is interesting, and especially if you go through and look at a lot of like the sextortion stuff, they'll use a lot of kind of stuff that's just super slimy. But that is our presentation. We have plenty of time for questions regarding this or otherwise, but please ask away.
Yay.
Thank you.
That's it. Anybody else have a question other than Bill?
Anyone but Bill.
Anyone, please.
Anyone. You mentioned, and I'm sorry, I was outside chatting, I missed the introduction. You mentioned that you worked with sock puppets for a number of years. Was that on a professional, or was that personal research, etc.?
Yep, that's for professional stuff. So back when I first started creating sock puppet accounts, I actually was before they had all these protections in place. So I'm actually like grandfathered in before they came in. So luckily I have a lot that are built out, but when I have new folks on my team or people trying to build it out, it's hard to create them. But for professional reason, yeah.
Yeah, full file age is definitely helpful.
Yeah. Awesome.
Bill.
I'm just wondering, I've been left on red for a long time.
Oh,
Are you
naturally.
going to be responding? That's really all I want.
Are you asking about Tiffany or Dan? No, you're not. That's a good question. The question was how many false positives were there with regular users? I think the only main false positive was Fernanda.
Yeah, I think there was only one.
Yeah, everybody else was below a 50 scam score, so yeah. I got very good eventually. I could quickly tell if they're real or not, pretty quickly, yeah. That's a good question. I don't know. That they didn't ask me about Telegram. Yeah,
yeah,
like how they talked.
It's how they conversate and then their pictures.
Yes,
They actually looked
yeah.
like a real picture, not a fake picture.
Yep.
Yeah.
First scam score? I did, well, I say I did research. I just asked my AI what are the main like indicators of somebody that's scamming, and it worked. That's really it. And I couldn't think of anything else. Yes, yeah. Yeah, there were more, and I'm not going to be able to tell you what they were because I can't remember. But there were definitely more, like what would decrease the score specifically, yeah. Yep. what's up, LP. That would be cool. We actually just talked about that recently.
I think so. Like, I think with time and like SIM cards and like the actual infrastructure, like it could be really good. We just need more hours in a day.
Yes.
That's all.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. You got a Max Pro subscription, OpenClaw agent. Yeah, sure.
If I could add to that, I'd be curious to know, because this is a 2-week engagement.
Yeah.
If you guys were able to do longer, I'd be curious to know if you could try trackers.
Mm-hmm.
To see if you do, see if you've got Corelight the attribution or whatnot, as well as if you are thinking that simply ESL is offshore, can you use predicted natural language attribution? For example, you think it's a Chinese person, you send them a message in simplified Chinese to see how quickly they respond.
That's a good idea.
What the heck?
Yeah. That was one of the goals, was to have like Snow said, 10 different accounts across the country to try to like get more data about like if it's like somebody on the West Coast would get this type of scam, or I don't know, somebody that's above 80 years old would get long-term romance scams like you see in the news, things like that. But I don't know.
Yeah, but,
time got away from us.
Those are good ideas to add if we expand it. Thank
for
you.
sure. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That definitely sucks. I mean, I could pull Tiffany's profile up when I get home and see what her interactions are, but it just got so much from my super crappily vibe coded application that I couldn't keep up with it at the time. But yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that. That's a good idea.
So, I know you guys had a small time frame to try to get your data together, but if you guys had a long time frame, what's one thing you would want to implement based off of the previous maybe 1 year, if you have a longer span of data?
I can't even think of one thing. There's like 100 things. I don't think I can narrow it down. There's so many things we're like, we wish you could have done that or had more time to do that. And I love the ideas that are being brought up because those are great too. So I don't know, that's probably a conversation we sit down and brainstorm like what to add, but there's not one thing.
Yeah, actually collecting the data on like specific age ranges get targeted more, or like the difference between like somebody that's 25 or somebody that's, I don't know, 60 on an app, like what different types of scams that they would get. That's what we were really trying to get to, but Mint Mobile sucks at sending their SIM cards, so we couldn't get that. Yeah. Yeah, the people that did the quote-unquote sextortion scams, some of those lasted like a day, and they got very explicit. Like some of them were explicit super quick, and some of them were explicit like over time. But they would eventually ask like reciprocal questions, like to Dan, like what do you like, and so it would eventually trip that flag. So yes, yeah. That's a good question. The question was, do you think the poor grammar was designed to test your susceptibility?
I don't know. That's a great question.
I mean, good question. Maybe? I don't know. Probably not. That's probably just how they talked. Because you can kind of tell, like, that's how they talked on the app, and then that's also how they talked on Telegram, too. So it was kind of consistent that way, but yeah. Oh no, we're not gonna do that. No, we probably should do that though. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely a good idea. Yeah. 100. Ethically we should do that. Will we? I don't know.
That is a good point.
Yeah. We're all hackers. Yeah. Right. Yes.
That's
yeah.
fair. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Bill.
You mentioned that you guys
The first thing was the pictures. Like, we used very basic AI pictures and just one picture. Like, that got banned like instantly. If we added more pictures, it took them like 30 minutes. But I think the pictures was the big one. And the other thing is we, in the dating app world, they call it shotgunning, where you just click right or swipe right. You keep doing it over and over, and that's, I guess, bot behavior. So that's something we purposely had to manually do, which kind of sucked, but we only swiped right on people who looked like it was an AI photo, AI-ish photo. And that actually, I think, helped our odds of actually getting attackers too. But then we also tried to do it on regular people just to try to balance it out. But I think those two things were the biggest reasons. Can you think of anything else?
I think so. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually using the browser version, we got banned more because it was like I used like Playwright to automate the browser with Claude Code, and that sucked. That got banned a couple times. So then, yeah, moving to the phone helped a lot too. So yeah, cool. No, I like Claude. Claude's cool. Claude rules. I don't know, maybe. Yeah.
Like a question in the back? Or are you just saying hi?
A question.
Okay.
So, any plans to move into less targeted dating apps? So, Facebook, our various social platforms to try to do a SOC. And I'm specifically interested if you're going after like overseas. Like I have friends that have moms that have people that have work on oil rigs and started trying to do relationships to get money and succeeded in some of those cases in conning money out of my friends' moms. So I'm curious if you're going to help pin them against the wall. Anyway.
No, that's a good question. I think we haven't actually gotten to that point of figuring out what we want to do next. So that's why I love your guys' questions, because that's actually writing a bunch of bullet points for us. Yeah. But I think for what we were doing, we obviously stick to dating profiles. I think it would be interesting to open up to different social media.
Yeah, we talked about that once, like a Facebook.
Yeah.
Also, we were kind of nervous that we weren't going to get any scammers at all. So one of the ideas was just like Craigslist misconnections, like something that we know is not legit at all. I don't know, but yeah. That's the goal eventually, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Question. Cool.
Cool.
Yes.
How malicious do you want to act as counter scammer personas?
Are we being recorded still? How malicious do we want to act? I think we would want to honestly replicate regular user behavior. Are you talking about like what comes after that?
Possibly.
Okay, all right, we'll talk after.
Okay. Very ominous.
Yeah. All right,
Cool.
I think we are done with questions.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for sticking around.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming out to Seckc. March, close your tabs if you have one. See us again on April something. It's always the second Tuesday of the month. We'll have some really great speakers. We're going to have Rando and LP, aka Triwolf, for some phenomenal topics. It'll be April 14th. Thank you very much. Have a great night.